Let's talk book recommendations on religion in the Soviet Union. So first, a good general book is this one, Religion in the Soviet Republics. It is a great overview of the entire history and all faiths. It was printed in 1991, so it is a very late overview, but it's a good, just comprehensive, basic book. It's by Igor Troyanovsky, and it's just a good place to start. Now, bear with me, these next ones are going to focus primarily on Islam. Islam is my religion, so I tend to focus more on that. You've probably heard me reference this one a lot. It is Islamic Peoples of the Soviet Union by Shirin Akiner. I don't have one with the cover on it, so I can't really show you what it looks like, but it's a primarily ethnographic book. It goes through every single people group in the Soviet Union that is Muslim. There's tons of great graphs on things like literacy rates and the improvement of knowledge in local languages and in the Russian languages. So if you want a more ethnic background and historical background of certain ethnic groups' approach to Islam in the Soviet Union, this is the book for you. And also the graphs are just really useful for information of improvements on quality of life and stuff like that. Next is a recent find for me, Islam in the Soviet Union. Now this book is by Alexander Benningsen and Chantal Lemercier. Quelquejay. I don't speak French. It's translated from French into English in 1967. I forgot to mention the year of the last book. That one is 70s, I believe. But this book is fantastic. It's fairly unbiased, and there's lots of great information and insights. The chapter focus is great. You start with historical background, Muslims on the eve of revolution, the national reformist movement, Muslim national communism, communism and the Muslim religion. It's just, the topics are great, and I just love their approach. Speaking of French, I have this book, and I have it in French because the English language version is impossible to find in print. This is The Red Star and the Green Crescent by Henri Alleg. There is an English version available on the Internet Archive, and what this is mostly useful for is the photographs and information. There's just some really beautiful photos and information I've not seen anywhere else, printed anywhere else. So even if I'm not totally convinced on the author and how he chooses to explain things, the book is worth picking up and looking through for the photographs, the art they include, and the captions on there. And this book is from 1983. Then we have pamphlets. I'm a collector of pamphlets, and I scan them and put them on my website. But this one is worth mentioning. It is Freedom of Religion in the USSR from 1951. This is by G. Spasov. Again, there's great photographs in here. And it's probably the best pamphlet I've ever come across. There's also lots of quotes from Lenin and Stalin, the Soviet Constitution, and interviews with actual clergy members in the Soviet Union at the time. And this one is particularly great for clearing up myths of godlessness and bans on religion. An interesting quote that is mentioned by Stalin goes, in his report to the 8th Congress of Soviets in 1936 on the draft of the Constitution of the USSR, Stalin, speaking of the amendments and addendas suggested during the nationwide discussion of the draft Constitution, said, "Next follows an amendment to Article 124 of the draft Constitution, demanding that the article be changed to provide for the prohibition of the performance of religious rites. I think that this amendment should be rejected as running counter to the spirit of our Constitution." So, interesting little quote showing that Stalin wasn't violently anti-religion. In fact, he prevented a banning on religious rights. Interesting. And lastly, I just want to direct you to my website, ladyizdihar.com. Under the hashtag religion, I have tons of pamphlets and articles scanned from my collection specifically on religion in the USSR. There's tons of interesting stuff that I've found and collected over the years that haven't really seen the light of day in sometimes 50, 60, 70 years. So yeah, I really highly recommend looking into those. So I hope those suggestions help you in your research and quest to better understand religious practice and religion in general in the Soviet Union. It's quite a complex topic. It greatly depends on the era and location. And I just suggest that you don't oversimplify it.